Sir, please start, sir.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, this is just a gist of my last decade experience. I think it will help everybody in this forum. Sorry, this is regarding anterior cruciate ligament. We know it's a gold standard surgical treatment for providing stability. However, the surgical technique used during ACL reconstruction varies widely. Different techniques are used, arthroscopic versus open, intra and extra-articular reconstruction, varying femoral tunnel placement, and different choices of the graft, and number of strands are either single, double, or triple, or different fixation methods are there. Between 1 to 3 lakh ACL reconstructions are performed every year in the United States. Despite many advances, nearly 13,000 revision ACL reconstructions are performed annually in the US. A significant proportion of the ACL reconstructions are failing despite advances in the techniques. This only represents the tip of the iceberg, as many patients not opt for surgery despite persisting instability. So all is not well. So these are some of the causes of ACL failure. One of them is reconstruction failure. One of them is non-anatomical tunnel placement, improper graft tensioning, inadequate graft fixation, insufficient graft material. The choice of which graft, which technique to be used is dictated by the patient's anatomy, previous surgical conditions, and concomitant injuries, as well as patient choice. Also, it depends upon the surgeon's preference and familiarity with the procedure. Much research has been done in trying to identify which particular graft or technique is best. However, the purpose of my talk is to share my experience of ACL reconstruction over the past decade rather than delving into controversies of best graft or technique. I have divided the talk into 4 sections: morphometry of ACL, our experience with various grafts and preferences, preferred fixation techniques, answering the persisting pivot shift despite technical ACL reconstruction. So we have done a cadaveric study as a thesis. And the objective was to study the positional relationship between the ACL and various landmarks. May be helpful during arthroscopic ACL reconstruction regarding the graft length, choice of graft, tunnel position, and fixation method. Such a study is lacking in Indian population because all studies we have seen is in the foreigners. This provides a quantitative data in our setup like ACL dimensions, morphology, bony as well as soft tissue landmarks, the knee joint, footprint area of the ACL. So we evaluated the 30 knees in 18 fresh cadavers. 14 were males and 4 were females, and there were 14 right side knees were there, and 11 on the left side in the male, and 3 on the right and 2 on the left in female cadavers. The youngest cadaver was 23 years age and oldest was 54 years old. Knee was open. This is an open knee through the medial parapatellar approach with the midline skin incision. This is how we measured the length of the ACL by Wernicke Kaplan in full flexion. It is measured from the anterior-most fiber of the ACL on the tibial footprint to the posterior-most fiber of the ACL on the femoral footprint in 90 degrees of knee flexion. And this is how we measured ACL circumference, which was taken 10 mm proximal to tibial footprint of the ACL. And this is how we measured the coronal and sagittal width of the ACL. It was 10 mm distal to the femoral footprint. After cutting the ACL, its tibial footprint, we measured the dimensions of the tibial footprint and did various calculations. And this is a femoral footprint footprint. After staining it at the resident ridge and posterior articular margin, we measured the dimension of the femoral footprint. This is how we measured the length and breadth of the femoral footprint. And various distances were calculated. This is one of them. It was from the anterior-most fiber of the posterior cruciate ligament to the center of the ACL footprint on the tibia. There are other distances also, but this is a soft tissue landmark. And we found at the end that these landmarks are not useful. These are the age study of the population. I'll most deal with the most relevant points. So these were some of the important landmarks. One was distance between the anterior-most fiber of the tibial footprint of the PCL to the center of the ACL tibial footprint in disarticulated knee. This was Z. Then next was the distance between the midpoint of the resident ridge to the articular cartilage of the femur or the lateral femoral condyle. And the next was the distance between the anterior margin of the tibial plateau to the center of the ACL. And another was distance between the posterior margin of the tibial plateau to the center of the ACL footprint over the tibia. So these are the various. Out of this, Z was 19.8 millimeter and Q was 10.89 millimeter. This was a posterior on the femoral side. Then value of the C was, that was a tibial from the plateau, from the tibia to the center of the ACL footprint, both C and D were not very important. So
मैडम को बात कर ले, मैं क्लास में हूँ.
Some of the conclusions in our study was, the resident ridge was present in all the cadavers in the examination. The ACL footprint was located in the femoral side was located between the resident ridge and posterior inferior articular margin, and it was consistent in all the cadavers. And similar results were found in another studies, where they found the lateral endocondylar ridge in 100% of the patients. So thus it can serve as a useful landmark for femoral tunnel placement, that is the resident ridge, to the posterior cartilage of the femur over the lateral femoral condyle. And it was around 12 plus minus 1.68 millimeter. Another thing we found was we could not find a separate ACL bundles. As you have seen, double bundle, triple bundle, all this. So we could not find anything in the Indian patients. Another thing was, some of the studies are described, they said difficult to separate ACL into discrete bundles. Another thing was ACL was significantly longer in the males, that is 32.26 millimeter as compared to the females. So in order to have optimal graft length ACL, it is essential to obtain a minimum intra-articular length of 30 mm. The ACL originated from the ellipse shape from the femoral footprint and became cylindrical towards when it goes towards the tibia. ACL was bulkier in the male cadavers than females. So we require a thicker and longer graft in the ACL. That was the applied knowledge we gained out of it. Mean area of the tibial footprint was larger than the femoral footprint. So therefore, larger graft needs to be inserted on the tibial side. So in case of disarticulated knee, value of the Z, that is the distance between the most fiber of the PCL to the center of the ACL tibia was significantly differing from the literature. So it was different in different studies. So this difference might be due to difference between the methodology of the measurements or knee position. So therefore, we found that this is not very important. Location of the tibial ACL attachment from the anterior border of the tibial plateau and also from the posterior margin of the tibial plateau are not accessible during arthroscopic surgery. So they are also not irrelevant as far as landmarks are concerned. So we found the other landmarks like retroeminence ridge, tibial eminence can be used as accurately as reference points during tibial tunnel placement. So this is a diagram from the literature which shows these are the bony landmarks like retroeminence our experience with the various grafts and preference. So common graft choices are autograft, allograft, and synthetic graft. So allograft we are not using. The ideal graft for reconstruction of ACL is the one which is biomechanical, similar to the native ligament, easily harvested, least donor site morbidity, and can be secured predictably well and is well incorporated into the bone. Now, the theoretical advantage of allograft are elimination of the donor side morbidity, decreased pain, shorter operating time and rehabilitation time, and better prognosis. However, the limited availability of the allograft in our setup makes it an uncommon choice. So our graft choices were BPTP, hamstring, which can be both tendon or a quadruple semitendinosus and a quadricep tendon. And nowadays we are using also peroneus longus. BPTP has historically been the gold standard. The graft includes mid portion of the patella, inferior pole, and tibial tuberosity, with the intervening tendon as a complete unit. Both bony ends allows potentially superior integration of the graft into the tunnels. Fixation can take place using a variety of methods ranging from intervenous fit with no fixation device to screws or a suspensory device. It was graft of choice in initial part of my cases. Nowadays, it's reserved for combined ACL and PCL injury and in revision cases. There are many reports of morbidity and complications associated with BPTP grafts. Complications include patellar tendon rupture, patellar fractures, quadricep weakness, loss of full extension, and knee pain, and difficult kneeling. Next is a hamstring graft, which we have used. Advantage of hamstring grafts especially includes reduced patellofemoral capitation, reduced anterior knee pain, and extension loss, less donor site morbidity, smaller skin issue. The quadruple semitendinous graft is thicker and stronger compared with the combined semitendinosus and gracilis, and even BPTP. This is one study which shows that if you get 24 centimeter of semitendinosus and you can have a 6 to 6.5 centimeter quadruple semitendinosus. This is a very stronger graft than both hamstrings. A circular type of suture is added on the tibial side to increase the stiffness of the graft. At least 10 mm of the graft should be there in the femoral tunnel to have a better fixation. Now, here the gracilis is spared, thereby potentially reducing the internal rotation weakness. Even though the semitendinosus is used, quadruple construct is always larger than the standard when you use the both tendons. Limitation of the graft is less length of graft is available inside the tunnel. Studies have shown 10 to 15 mm on the femoral side and 15 to 20 mm on the tibial side are sufficient for the graft. By using only one tendon, The radial tendon is paired and flexion and knee flex, which is an important flexor and hip and knee flexor and internal rotator of the hip. And it can be used in a revision cases also. In one of the series, in 164 cases, 80 patients operated using, out of which 80 patients operated using quadruple semitendinous graft, where they found the length was adequate. So we have done this also study, one of the study, which we found 30 patients. 4 were excluded because we could not get the sufficient length. Out of which we did we used one tendon only. And in all the patients after quadrupling, the tendon on the femoral side was fixed with the endobutton and tibial side with the interference screws. The primary outcome was compared with the functional lysosomal score and anterior tibial translation. Secondary outcomes were measurement of the harvested and quadruple semitendinous graft length and thickness and its complication. This is quadruple semitendinous graft. This is how we do quadrupling, and one end is fixed with the endobutton. This is a nose clearance. Everybody knows this procedure. This is a fixation device. These are post-op. This is after rehabilitation. A total of 30 patients with ACL tear were included in the study. The mean age was 29 years. 6.7% patients were female, and rest were male. Mean time lapse after injury to surgery was 7.6 months. And the mean length was found to be 28.9 centimeters. This was quite good length we get of the semitendinosus. And the mean quadruple graft length was more than 7 centimeters, that is 7.2 to 7 centimeters. And diameter was always more than 7.5. So this is very strong graft. And we have found that 8 mm, if you can reach up to 8 mm, that is the best diameter to put as a graft. This was a femoral length, tibial length, and tunicate time. This score. Some complications like knee effusion, superficial graft, harvest infection in one case. On the basis of the investigation, we conclude that reconstruction of ACL by quadruple semitendinous graft with endobutton and biobserver screw achieved excellent clinical subject results in a short-term follow-up of 6 months. Another graft we use, excuse me, I'll just take a water glass. So another quadriceps, we use a quadriceps tendon. Audible? Am I
Yes, sir.
audible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Current literature suggests quadriceps tendon is a viable option for this ACL reconstruction. Comparable knee stability and functional outcome with other tendons. Advantage of quadriceps tendon is less donor side morbidity and larger in cross-section area. This is very thick graft. So we have done nearly 12 cases of ACL injury. Quadriceps tendon is harvested using 4 to 5 centimeter long incision over the proximal pole of the patella. Knee flexion and extension helps to stretch the skin incision proximally and distal ends of the graft harvest. After graft exposure, graft length widths are measured. Full thickness graft is harvested freehand. Cut ends are repaired side to side. Attempt is made to repair the suprapatellar pouch injured during the graft harvest. We found whether we distend the knee beforehand or afterhand, you're likely to injure the suprapatellar pouch. So arthroscopy is generally attempted post-graft so that you don't injure the suprapatellar pouch. The resulting graft is more anatomical to the native ACL. Nearly 8 centimeter length is always available. Femoral and tibial tunnels are prepared. Fixation is done by using interference screw on both sides. These are some of the cases. This is how we harvest the graft. Very thick graft, 9 mm thickness. So always we have to reduce the diameter. Sometimes it becomes so thick that we have to reduce it to 8, 8.5 or 9. This is a post of another case. So you can see very thick graft. This is a post of X-ray. So early results of quadriceps tendon seem promising. However, the suprapatellar pouch injury may lead to some leakage of fluid while arthroscopy, but it did not interfere with the procedure. Graft length and width that should be taken as minimum 8 mm respectively, 8 centimeter and 8 mm respectively. The graft should be tensioned prior to fixation, and anterior graft should be done after the fixation. So next, my the subject was fixation methods. This was the one fixation method: tight rope and interference screw on the tibial side. We have done specifically on this tight rope. We found this is the best fixation method we have used so far. So we found the graft fixation is the weakest link in rehabilitation on the femoral side. There are various advantages of tight rope fixation. You need not calculate the implant size. Ideal for short femoral tunnel, and it fills the entire socket with the graft. Knotless system, and you can tighten it after inserting it also. That is the advantage. So this is a graft harvesting, hamstring, tensioning. Then we have put a tight rope on one side. This is a femoral tunnel, empty notch sign. This is how we make a tibial tunnel. Just putting that using a PCL as a landmark. So we found this to be good at the end of the 6 months while the lysosome score, after calculating the score. We found 31% patient had a meniscus injury for which we did a partial meniscectomy. Some of the complications also were there, like anterior placement of the interference screw, breakage of the gracilis tendon, like this, and pain and swelling. So this is the anterior placement of the interference screw. So what are the recent trends in ACL reconstructions? We are doing two works nowadays. Two research theses are going on. One was pivot shift, how to prevent the pivot shift post ACL reconstruction, and another is the use of peroneus longus. So I'll take up these two things together. So what are the recent trends? Despite the advances in arthroscopy, ACL reconstruction, better fixation techniques, a significant number of patients continue to experience knee instability and pivot shift phenomena post-operatively. So this is because of anterolateral ligament. But this requires reconstruction only in high-end athletes, not in every case. So this was observed by Paul Seguin in 1970. Later, it was known as Seguin fracture, which was an indirect sign of fracture of the lateral tibial condyle with avulsion of anterolateral ligament. This ligament is identified on the lateral aspect of the knee, anterior to the fibular collateral ligament. It stabilizes the medial rotation of the knee. The pivot shift phenomena in anterior cruciate ligament is a ligament injury is responsible for avulsion of tibia plateau in ACLTS. So this is anatomy of the anterolateral ligament. This is a distinct ligament. We have seen on the cadaver also. Femoral attachment is posterior and proximal to lateral epimedial. Tibial attachment lies between the jaditubercular and fibular collateral ligament. And ALL has a constant attachment to the lateral meniscus. Lies anterior to the lateral collateral ligament in its course. Clinical significance is it stabilizes the medial rotation and prevents the pivot shift phenomenon. The basic step for ACL with this AL reconstruction are as follows. So we have used gracilis and semitendinosus are harvested. Actually, we need to harvest the opposite side in this case if we want to reconstruct this ligament. And generally, semitendinosus is enough to reconstruct this ligament. So another, we are using this peroneus longus nowadays. We have done nearly 10 cases till now on early results. So regarding peroneus longus, this is equivalent and even stronger to other grafts available for ACL reconstruction. Again, a very strong graft. This is also used in a high-end individuals, high-end athletes, not in a routine cases. It has a less morbidity and less functional loss after harvesting. This is how, these are the steps where how do we harvest the peroneus longus. A longitudinal skin incision 2 centimeters proximal to posterior border of the lateral malleolus, exposing the distal end of peroneus longus. Then cut the peroneus longus and pull it out. And distal end should be sutures with the peroneus brevis. And rest steps are the same. Just take the video. Some video is also, just bear with me. Pankaj? ये वीडियो नहीं चल रहा है
सर ये प्रेजेंटेशन को मिनिमाइज करके
वीडियो नहीं चल रहा
अगर डेस्कटॉप पे वीडियो है तो डायरेक्टली चला दो सर ये प्रेजेंटेशन को स्टॉप शेयरिंग करके
अच्छा वीडियो नहीं चल रहा
हाँ सर
एक
उसके
1
लिए
मिनट अभी चलाते हैं एक मिनट ये होगा ये हाँ सर दिखाई दे रहा है
यस सर
हाँ you can see the length and the width of this graph, very thick and very long. So that's all. Okay. Okay. So this is a post-operative rehabilitation. Knee extension is started immediately after surgery, and gradual flexion is achieved 0 to 90 degrees 3 weeks until 3 weeks post-surgical. Partial weight bearing in 3 weeks. The patient was allowed to jog after 2 months, and full athletic activity after 6 months. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes in the practical exam, it is being asked like, what are the basic prerequisites of doing your entry at drawer? Always remember there are 4 points, like the hip should be flexed at 45 degree, knee should be at 90, the foot should be fixed either by sitting on it, and also your hamstring should be relaxed. So you should feel with your the other fingers so that you should feel that the hamstring is relaxed. So these are the 4 prerequisites of your, as we told asked during the Tendelbach also. What are the prerequisites for the PC Tendelbach? There are 4 prerequisites for your classically doing the entry at drawer. Okay. Then also what is the importance of doing the Lachman? Because Lachman can be even done in the acute knees. So this is also asked in the your Viva question. Okay. Because the Lachman also can be done in the acute setting, and also can be as because it is flexed in 15 degree, so that the doorstopper effect of the meniscus is not there. Okay, because in acute setting we cannot do the your pivot sit, and even in some healthy patients you cannot do the pivot sit because sometimes the pivot sit might be painful to the patient. Okay, patients are really apprehensive, so you have to understand all these. Okay, and also there is a Macintosh modification of your pivot sit which is done by the sideways. Even in the Campbell, if you read properly, it can be done by when the patient is lying on the side of the other side, contralateral side, uninjured side. So that also you can read from your Campbell. Okay. So I think Karla sir has covered beautifully all the anatomical landmarks and everything, and the hats off to Karla sir because he has studied the real cadaveric anatomy of the Indian male and the female reference points. So this is a real excellent cadaveric study. And also the question is, what are the different fixation techniques for the ACL, like your tightrope or the endo button and the interference screw? Okay, so these are also the questions. And also you have to know what is known as the Bungee effect, Bungee cord effect, and what is the windshield wiper effect. Bungee cord is your when the graft moves along the length of the tunnel. So that is known as the Bungee cord. Bungee means it is jumping in the bungee jumping. And what is the windshield wiper effect? Windshield wiper effect is when your graft moves sideways. Suppose your graft is thinner than your diameter of the tunnel, then it moves sideways. So this is known as the windshield wiper effect. So there are 2 effects how the graft can fail. One is the Bungee cord effect. This happens when in the suspension device. Suspensory device means when you do with the tightrope, and when you do the interference, this is not the suspensory device. Okay, so it is blocking your mouth of the tunnel. So I think these are the basic things which should be understood as the student, and this should be the basic requirements in your Viva and also in the theoretical aspect, because now the fixation technique is in your ACL is coming, and also you must know the Newton-wise strength of the tendon harvest, like your quadriceps, then the 4th strand semi-T, then the patellar tendon, and also nowadays we are using the peroneus longus in the revision case and also in the multi-ligament injuries. Okay, so graft harvest is also sometimes coming in your theory also. So you have to read all those things. I think these are the basic things. Gopa sir, anything to add on in the Viva?
No. I think I have covered most of the things, sir. Most of the things that is necessary. Basically, for the students, it needs how to identify an ACL injury, what are the tests that are commonly done, the anatomy of the ACL, which has been covered by Karla sir very well. And then regarding the various types of fixation techniques, even though now quadruple ST graft, semitendinosus graft is the one that is commonly used. How is it being fixed? And the complications of each of them. Usually they may ask the merits and demerits of bone, patellar tendon, bone versus the hamstring grafts. That's a question that can be asked. He has covered almost all of these by basic research. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything to add on, Kakatkar sir? Because I think the senior most examiners, they can be telling us the basic questions, what is done in the Viva. Kakatkar sir, your opinion, anything we have missed? Kakatkar sir, you are muted. Kakatkar sir, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have covered everything. There is nothing left as far as the ACL part is concerned. At least for the exam going purpose, I think every part of the ACL has been covered. Because there may be some more intricacies, but then I think for the basic examination purpose, I think they are not needed. People who are doing Scopy and they want to make their career as only arthroscopic surgeon, I think for them more technical things are needed. But for MS or DNB level, I think everything is covered.
Yeah. Then another one, sir, there is a question in the chat box from a student. Which one is the stronger fixation, endo button or the aperture fixation, or which one is having the lesser complications? This is the question for the speaker.
Aperture fixation is a better fixation. If you use bone along with that, that is the best, like BPTP. And you use the interference screw, there's nothing like that. You can mobilize as early as possible. That we have done it also. But short of it, the best fixation in our cases, like I have found, is tightrope and interference screw. If you are using a hamstring tendon, tightrope is the best in our setup on the femoral side, and interference screw on the tibial side if you're using tendons only. But if you use a BPTP, that is a gold standard. Nothing can replace the BPTP. Believe me. Whenever heavy athletes like sumo, Japanese, very heavy athletes, wrestlers, there you use BPTP. We use a BPTP. Or a peroneus longus, like heavy tendons. And
I think the question is answered, that sir is telling that when the aperture fixation is the gold standard, and also the gold standard is the bone tendon bone graft. Completely agreed on that. And if you want to use the semi-tay or the soft tissue graft, it is better to use the suspensory device, as because sometimes your hard screws might injure your soft tissue graft. So it is better to use the suspensory device on the femoral side, or else you can use the pillar and post. Biomechanically, the pillar and post fixation is the strongest fixation in the tibial side. Even it doesn't match with your interference screw. But because of the prominence of the screw, we don't do that anymore unless and otherwise it is really soft. Another one question, probably I think we have missed. Another one, how you judge your screw size? Remember, this is a very tricky question in the Viva. Usually on the femoral side, it is -2. Okay, that suppose you have drilled 9, so your screw size will be 7. On the tibial side, it will be +1 or +2. Suppose you have drilled 9, it will be 10 or 11. So according to the softness, whatever you have felt during your drilling. Usually in the males, it is +1 on the tibial side. In the females, it was +2 in the female. Agreed, Kalla sir?
Yes, sir. But some of the errors you can avoid while doing ACL surgery is, like if you are an initial ACL surgeon, never like we started 10, 15 years down the line now, then first we used to write where we can err. So we can put, if you put a femoral screw, you should avoid blowout. And you should not go too posterior when you are doing a femoral tunnel in initial cases. Because if you get a blowout, the answer is very difficult in initial cases. You have to use a suspensory fixation after that. And don't put anterior tibial tunnels. Always go into the center. You may not be anatomical, but try to avoid complications. The only thing is you should know what are the complications while I am doing surgery. So you will err on a negative side so that you avoid them. So that way you will get the minimum complications.
Yes, I think Karla sir had given you the one guru mantra to all the juniors. Then whenever you are doing the ACL, you should not blow out the posterior cortex, even in this, even in your suppose soft tissue, because then the incorporation of the graft is difficult. You may come out from the situation by your suspensory device, but problem, because the thing is that always remember, whatever the graft is given inside the tunnel, remember this is I am hammering in your brain. Whatever graft you are giving inside the tunnel, everything dies in 3 months. Only the healing at the mouth that happens in the ACL, that is known as the Sarpe fibers healing. So the graft should match always. 9 graft means you will always drill 9. If you drill it 10, it is a day one failure. So then it will be a windshield wiper effect. So the synovial fluid will seep in and the graft will not incorporate. So this is the problem. So always remember what Karla sir is telling, blowout is the complication or day one complication. You should not go like that. You should see at least 2 millimeters of femoral cortex is intact after your drilling. So before you drill on the femoral side, at least double and triple check that you are not blowing out the posterior cortex. Am I right, Karla sir?
And one more thing is we have used fixation with patient's bone itself. You have a mill which while taking the bone from the femoral tunnel or tibial tunnel, you get a bone block with that. And the same bone block, you can use it as an interference screw.
Yes. So basically you are telling like the hollow mill sort of thing.
Yes, yes. So even if you don't want to use any fixation, that is another way, but that is a difficult choice.
That is a difficult choice, and also there is a flimsy situation. I think nobody is practicing that. So it is better to use either the suspensory or the aperture fixation. This terminology should be printed in your brain. What is the suspensory meaning of suspensory, and what is the aperture fixation, and what is the what are the sizes that are chosen for the femoral side, -2 as I told you, and +1 and +2 for the tibial side. And also, I think Karla sir has told beautifully, currently the question was also there last time in the DNP exam, what is the ALL? So you must understand the anatomy of the ALL. Okay, so you at least you write something like a short note on ALL. Okay. And what is nowadays, now the question is that when there is a high grade athlete, or as Karla sir was referring to, and when there is an explosive pivot. Explosive pivot means whenever it is too much pivot, is like subluxating at any very, very harshly, then you have to reconstruct the anterolateral side. That is known as the Lemaire procedure. I think please read today the modified Lemaire procedure. LAMAIRE. Lemaire procedure. This is done with the iliotibial band. So that is a very easy technique. We are doing for the revision ACLs and also doing in the high demand athletes. So please remember to read the modified Lemaire procedure. This can come as a hot note in your theory exam.
We have done semitendinous quadruple for the ACL and gracilis of the same side for ALL.
Okay.
Wherever we found we did not get these two tendons adequate, then we have to abandon the ALL procedure, because otherwise we have to take the other side of the knee, which we never wanted to.
No. Obviously, we cannot go violate the other knee.
So when we get a good amount of semitendinosus, which can be quadrupled, then we did a ACL with that and use gracilis for ALL. Believe me, all few cases we did as a thesis, and all gave a good result, better, stronger outcome.
Yes, basically whatever Karla sir is telling, that always remember whenever there is an explosive pivot and high demand patient, you have to go for the anterolateral reconstruction, either by the gracilis like ALL reconstruction, or else you can do the add-on the modified Lemaire procedure. Always remember, always, this is again I am hammering to all my juniors, whenever you are seeing any explosive pivot, please don't forget to test the corners, like the PLC injury or the posteromedial corner injury. Also the root tears, because the explosive pivots are usually associated with root tears and also the corner injuries. Because if you forget to see the root tears or the corner injuries, you beautifully do the ACL. Believe me, this is 100% day one failure. So never forget to see the corners and the roots of the meniscus.
Sir,
So I think we have covered most of the. If there is any question, Gopal, we can take those.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Carlos.
Sir, there are a few questions. What is the ideal length of the graft in the femoral tunnel? Minimum graft, sir has already told 10 millimeters should be minimum. But question is, what is the ideal length of the graft in the femoral tunnel?
Ideal length in the femoral tunnel should be like 15 to 20 millimeter. As I told you, 50 to 20, because as I told you, the length is nowadays is bit minimal importance. Main thing is the tight fitting of the graft at the mouth of the tunnel. So it should not be loose at the tunnel, because I told you whatever graft you are putting inside the tunnel is going to die. This is a recent advance in the ACL healing, that whatever graft you are putting in the tunnel, it is going to die in 3 months. Only the Sarpe fiber which heals at the mouth of the tunnel, that gives the stability and fixation of the ACL. So that's why 15 millimeter is the minimal length for the healing for this 3 months period. Not less than 50 millimeter in both the sides.
Right, sir. Sir, there is one more question. While taking peroneus longus graft, distal end of the peroneus longus, you are suturing it with peroneus brevis tendon. At what level you should suture it? One, and I am adding to this question, why you have to suture this graft with the peroneus brevis, stump of the distal peroneus longus? Why you should suture it with peroneus brevis? Samantha sir.
Me or Carla sir?
Up sir.
Okay. So thing is that there are two theories on the suturing technique. One is whether there is a big debate whether to suture the peroneus longus with the peroneus brevis. Primarily when the peroneus longus started in the practice like 5-7 years back, everybody in the world was trying for the beautiful graft. So they all sutured the peroneus longus with the brevis in every case. But recent advance, believe me, this is the recent advance. You don't need to suture the peroneus longus with the brevis. You don't need at all to suture the peroneus longus with the brevis. But please, if you are asked in the exam, you tell sir, the peroneus longus should be sutured with the brevis, because this is the theory that most of the people believe. But this is the recent advance. Unless you are forced to ask for the recent advance, don't utter like you don't have to suture it.
Right. But what was the concept behind this suturing, sir?
People thought because whenever you take the peroneus longus, people thought that we are going to lose some eversion power. So that's why to have the eversion power, we have to suture the distal end of the peroneus longus with the peroneus brevis. But biomechanically, even in the gait analysis, they have found that even though they don't longus with the brevis, it doesn't cause any harm in the whatever minimal loss in the eversion power. It doesn't make sense to suture it back with the peroneus brevis. It doesn't serve any purpose.
Sir, there is one more question, Kalra sir, for you. Why tibial tunnel position and screw in X-ray is not of same dimension? Why there should be a difference between the size of the tunnel and the size of the screw you are fixing in aperture fixation?
Can you repeat it?
Why tibial tunnel position and screw in X-ray is not same in all cases?
No, Gopal, this question I could not even understand. What is the question? What position? Can the student be he can be unmuted, he can ask the question directly so that we can better understand the question.
Dr. K. Sanjeev Kumar. Dr. K. Sanjeev Kumar. If you are there, unmute yourself and ask question properly. If I have to answer, if he is having this type of thinking,
can I ask, sir? Like I got
no.
Got the question.
Let Kishore, let the person who asked the question complete the question. At the end, I will give you a chance. K. Sanjeev Kumar.
Sanjeev Kumar.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening.
Sanjeev, you ask you show your video. Sanjeev, so show your video.
Sir, sir.
On your video. Okay, ask your question now.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening. Yes,
Ask the
Sir,
second part of your questions. Second part of your question.
X-rays for the tibial tunnel cases, tibial tunnels, in the X-rays, the screw positions are not same in all cases, sir. So, what is the problem, sir, for that?
I think
So,
you should
while keep
you should,
G position,
I think you should go back and read what is normal tunneling in tibia. Number one. Number two, it is the surgeon dependent problem. What is ideal, you should understand. I think Kalra sir has tried to explain the proper anatomy. Okay. So
sir.
your question is, you are not understanding what you want to ask actually. अगर आप चाहते हैं,
Gopal.
sir, sir. Yes, sir. Samantha, sir.
Gopal, can I make it a bit simple for all the students? This question so far I could understood from his query with the permission of Kalra sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The thing is that when you take the post-op X-ray for your ACL, usually it is taken in extension. Okay. Yes. So now you try to draw two lines of your tibial line, one anterior line and one the posterior line. Always remember these two lines would be behind Bulman-Set lines. So if these two lines are behind your Bulman-Set lines in the lateral X-ray, that means your tunnel is perfect and it is absolutely following the footprint of the ACL. So this is the trick of understanding the correct tunnel of the tibia. I think second question what he was asking, what is the screw position of the tibial tunnel? Why it is different in different X-ray? This is the choice of the surgeon. Some surgeons try to put a screw at the 12 o'clock and some surgeons keep it at 6 o'clock. Understood? 12 o'clock means anterior to the graft. 6 o'clock means it is posterior to the graft. But remember, it is my choice and it is people choosing it to put the screw at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Why? Because if you just imagine and close your eyes, imagine the tunnel, that the tunnel length on the posterior side of the tibia is much longer than the anterior length of the tunnel. So even if you misfire on the back side, there is lesser chance of putting the screw intra-articular. So if you put the screw on the 6 o'clock, you will be having the better screw purchase and length. So that's why usually most of the surgeons nowadays put the screw at the back side.
And for that, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kalra, sir.
I have recently we did one case where the screw went intra-articular.
Yes, yes, that is the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
Now, see, if we remove that screw, our graft is gone. Graft is totally wasted. So how to overcome this situation? Very tricky. So we have to take a burr and cut the screw intra-articularly so that it goes below the articular surface. So that these kind of situations do come, but there, as you, I mean, it should be ACL should be anatomical. So anatomical is very non-anatomical ACL is a failure. So if you see nowadays this Campbell, it has given what are the causes of failure. Each cause is defined by failure. He has given a mnemonic. I don't know it. Maybe Sivananda sir must be knowing that Campbell's mnemonic. And failure. So he has given FAI, everything. One should go to that Campbell and read that mnemonic. It says it is mostly iatrogenic failure.
Yes, it is mostly iatrogenic. If you are not following the basic principle of doing the ACL surgery is not very difficult surgery. Is very, if you follow it meticulously, no surgery is very difficult. So I think you have to follow every step of doing the ACL surgery, because the main problem, another one thing probably me and Kalra sir forgot to tell you, if you put your graft on the anterior side, that means if your tibial tunnel is anterior, then problem it will always impinge on the roof of the intercondylar notch. So that will create the cyclops lesion. This is also coming in the question. So what will happen with the cyclops? One is the pain. Second thing is that patient will never get the 0-degree extension because the graft will block the intercondylar notch and he will not be able to put the full extension. Then another one problem, suppose it make it too posterior, then another problem is that graft will be very smaller length. So even if you go posterior, you are in trouble. Even if you come anterior, you will be in trouble. So you will lose flexion also there if you go too posterior. So you have to be absolutely center at the ACL footprint. So usually the old examiners, like most of the experienced guys, they usually try to listen from your mouth where you will put the width pin for the ACL. It should be like the answer should be, I will keep at the heart of the ACL stump. This is the answer. Heart means, if you can see my video, I don't know whether I am visible. Suppose this is the triangle. Suppose this is the triangle. This is the front side of the ACL. This is the back side of the ACL. Suppose this is the front side. It has to be at the center of this triangle. So this is known as the through the heart of the ACL tibial footprint side. So this should be the answer. I think most of the people, those who are very fanatic about, like me, of doing the arthroscopic surgery, they will be eagerly waiting to hear these terms from your mouth.
Sir, will it be 7 millimeter in front of the PCL? That used to be some teaching.
Yes.
Will that be okay, sir?
Yes, I think you are to the Craig Morgan study. So that should be 7 millimeter from the leading edge of the footprint. But how we judge which is the leading edge of the footprint? So that is the problem, because in Craig Morgan study, they have told us that even the height of the patient, remember, suppose some guy is 5.5, 6.5, 6, even this height of the patient's height doesn't differ in ACL positioning in the arthroscopy medic is always fixed at 7 millimeter in Craig Morgan study. So you can, with your jig, you can measure with the elbow aiming jig, you can measure how much you are anterior from the leading. So basically there are, Gopal, I may take some 30 seconds time with your permission from this. There are three reference points. There are three reference points for your tibial width pin. One is the heart of the ACL footprint, that is the center of the triangle. Second is the 7 millimeter anterior from the PCL leading edge. Third is, that is the most important point, it should follow, remember, I am repeating very slowly, it should follow the posterior margin of the lateral meniscus. If you draw an imaginary line through the posterior margin of the lateral meniscus, where it falls at the ACL footprint, it should be the ideal width pin side. So there are three reference points: heart of the ACL, 7 millimeter from the PCL, imaginary line, whichever you are drawing with your jig, from the posterior margin of the lateral meniscus. So these can be asked if you are really good in your viva.
And one more thing regarding impingement, I have seen few impingement cases where there was an anterior impingement of the ACL. Generally, they come with capitis, believe me. Like you get in supraspinatus congenita, you get a capitis while abducting. Similarly, yes, while extending, the patient complains there is a capitis in the knee. So that is anterior impingement. Another thing is you should avoid the PCL impingement also. So when you know the error, you always err on the other side. So to avoid this error.
So I am just, whatever Karla sir is telling, I am just repeating just to print in your brain. There are three impingements in ACL. There are three, remember, again I am referring to three. One is the superior impingement. That means your graft is anterior and that is impinging on the roof of the intercondylar notch. Second thing is the PCL impingement, what Karla sir told you. There are three, another one, third impingement is this, that is on the surface of your lateral, medial surface of your lateral femoral condyle. So the graft can even abrade. If you are too lateral, the graft can be abraded on the medial surface of the lateral femoral condyle. So you have to be very sure that you are not impinging in three sides. One is the anterior intercondylar notch. Second is the your I told you your PCL impingement. Third is the medial surface of the lateral femoral condyle. I'll give you one trick, Guru Mantra at the end of it. Whenever you do, suppose you have drilled the between for the femur, between for the tibia, please, usually most of the surgeons I have seen, they are not doing it. Once you have done the between on the tibial side, please extend your knee to 0 degree. So once you extend your knee to 0 degree, you can check all three in one shot. Suppose it is not impinging on the posterior side, it is not impinging on the roof, it is not impinging on the lateral side. So you three impingements you can negate. Am I true, Kalla sir?
Yes, sir. And some of the difficult ACL diseases are like you get a partial ACL tear. Sometimes MRI says partial ACL tear. That's a difficult decision. Another thing is you get a ACL tear in adolescents where the epiphyses are not closed.
Yes.
So that is another difficult call. So these are the calls very difficult to take.
So
Yes.
Kalla sir has pointed out in a very big topic now, that is the adolescent and the pediatric adolescent or the pediatric group PCL. So please read that from the paper because it is now coming as a theory questions. There are three, again, I am telling you three things. If you print in your brain, when you read, it will be easy. One is known as the transphyseal. That means whenever you are drilling through the physis. Second thing is that is extraphyseal. That means you are avoiding the physis. Okay. And third thing is that when you drill in your epiphysis, not in the plate, not through the epiphyseal plate. That means it is outside in technique. Unless you read, I draw the picture, probably it is very difficult to make you understand. But remember, there are again three techniques in doing the tunnels in the pediatric or the adolescent group. Please read that because this will be coming in your theory exam, I can assure you.
Sir, there is one more question. How to manage intraoperative femoral blowout in aperture fixation?
I think Kalla sir has already told. I think he has missed that point. Kalla sir has already told once there is a blowout on the backside, you don't have anything left to you other than having the suspensory device.
Right, sir. Sir, now my question is to Kalra sir and Samantha sir to you and also Sivananda sir. Sir, the ACL ligament fibers, naturally, they are parallel to the hamstring. PCL fibers, they are parallel to the patellar tendon. Am I right, sir? So now my question is, in postoperative and preoperative rehab, in ACL reconstruction, rather, which muscle tendon you will prefer to develop physiotherapy wise before surgery and after surgery, whether it is a quadriceps mainly or a hamstring mainly in ACL?
I think Sivananda sir should answer because Sivananda sir you have already in the group. So I think Sivananda sir.
Sivananda sir. Because your answer is leading to another question, sir. So which should be ideally you should follow mainly during physiotherapy? Sivananda sir. In ACL deficient knee or ACL reconstructed knee, hamstring you should focus mainly or quadriceps you will focus mainly?
So quadriceps strengthening exercise will give you the failure because quadriceps will pull the tibia anterior. So you have to do the hamstrings.
Now my question, sir.
Next answer.
Next question. Then why you are having choice of graft as a hamstring tendon? Because you are weakening one more structure. You are using that structure as a choice of graft. Why not going for BTB tendon or quadriceps tendon or peroneus longus tendon? Biomechanically, why we should not spare the hamstring tendons? Samantha sir, Sivananda sir, Kalra sir.
I think seniority wise, Kalra sir first.
Sir, Kalra sir.
So actually, I differ with this hamstring. If you see ACL deficient knees, in ACL deficient knee and where the patient do not go for surgery for ACL reconstruction. If you improve their quadriceps, their symptoms disappear over the period of years. That is experience. Okay. So quadriceps is more important, and as the knee gets stiffer, like we get little osteoarthritis. So again, the symptoms get, the patient is more stable.
But
So
sir, yes sir,
quadriceps is more important.
yes sir. But
I
in
think
ACL
Gopal,
deficient knee, yes sir, sir, एक simple question sir. अभी ACL
थोड़ा जो
deficient,
अभी तक का जो क्वेश्चन है, मेक इट सिंपल, पहले उसको सीधा थोड़ा सा सिंप्लीफाई कर लेते हैं.
right sir.
For the students, remember, whenever we do reconstruct the PCL, think it like this way: you should not do some training which stimulates the hamstring, because if you stimulate or exercise actively, do the, suppose your open chain exercise, then problem is that you will contract the hamstring. So if you contract your hamstring, your tibia will be pulled backwards. So when you do the protocol of doing the PCL, if you read it properly, you should not stimulate the hamstring initially for your PCL reconstructed knees. That is one. Second thing is that once you are asking that why not the quadriceps or the patellar tendon is taken for the ACLs. The problem is that now the complications with the hamstring and the quadriceps graft. Problem is your extensor power loss in the footballers, and also the anterior knee pain and the post-op morbidity, which is absolutely minimal with your hamstring. And also there is a phenomena which is known as the lizard tail phenomena. That is, even if you take the semitendinosus graft, there is a study that the whole tendon graft, it forms like a lizard tail. If you cut the lizard's tail, it will grow after some time. So this is known as the lizard tail phenomena for the hamstring. So there is no permanent loss is there, even if we construct the reconstruction of the ACL with the hamstrings, so that the hamstring is less morbid, there is no anterior knee pain, and the post-op for these patients are very easy, and patients are really very good during their physio, as because there is no pain in the front of the knee.
Right, sir. Then can we think of peroneus longus tendon, sir? Because basic biomechanical understanding tells us ACL, you should strengthen the hamstrings.
No, peroneus tendon is always there, but the problem is that it is a very, very thick, long, very beautiful tendon if you compare with the with your semity. But problem is that suppose you are the patient, you will never be happy to agree for a joint which is still virgin over there. So it is better to make the patient understand and make them happy to that I will take one tendon from your knee which is injured, rather than violating one intact joint. So your count in multi-leagues, they will understand. But the problem is that for a singular ACL, it is very easy to digest the theory that I will be taking one ligament from your knee which is injured, rather than taking one good ligament which is not been injured from your same ankle. It is just like counseling from taking the tendon from the other knee. I think you will also not agree.
Right, sir.
The problem is one
yes,
more
sir.
thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
With peroneus longus and quadriceps, we could use 8 mm diameter, but believe me, we never got 8 mm diameter with both the tendons. So 8 mm diameter is the ideal choice, and it is very strong fixation. So that you cannot get with any other tendon.
So what do you suggest, sir?
So
new thinking and new study.
My answer to the Karla sir is that even if you ask in the exam what is the minimal ideal diameter for the ACL, please remember, print in your brain, it should be answered like 8 millimeter. It should not be below 8. Below 8 means 7 millimeter. Even some people believes that 7 millimeter can suffice in female, but your answer in your exam table will be 8 millimeter.
So that you will not get with both the tendons. Even single semity can give you 8 mm, I tell you.
Yes,
But
the
quadruple semity is good enough. Very good tendon.
very good tendon. Quadruple semity is lengthwise and the diameter wise is very good tendon. His problem is the short stature and the females. Then it is a problem. Then your choice will be a best choice, if you can harvest the graft properly, will be your quad tendon nowadays, because you don't have the problem of rupturing or the fracture of the patella. Unless you are very critical in taking the graft from the patellar side, you may create problem when the patellar side, unless you are very meticulous. So whenever you take the chunk from the patella. So I think in any class, probably if Gopal permits me, I will show you the 2 videos, small videos, how to take the the patellar tendon graft, and second one will be the how to harvest the semity, as because Kalra sir has already shown you how to see the peroneus long. If we get time permits, Gopal is the Jayanto is the boss. They are the 2 bosses. They will fix the timing and whatever. Okay.
Sir, next class.
One minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If I go for ACL surgery in my knee, I will ask him to do quadruple semity and use tightrope.
Right, sir.
Yes, I told you, because the morbidity is absolutely hell and heaven difference with the patellar tendon and the hamstring. The more or less the pain is not there even in the this thing, and the extensor power loss, which is a real problem in footballers. If you take the patellar tendon, which is very difficult to regain afterwards.
I think I agree with Kalra sir, because in tightrope you can really tightly put the graft in femoral tunnel. Absolutely tightly you can put, and that sharpies the fibers phenomena. You can very well execute to occur post reconstruction. I think, sir, Kalra sir, 11 minutes are still there to finish the petrol. So now I request Uday Kumar sir to unmute, and also Konujaya sir to unmute. Uday Kumar sir, anything more you want to ask?
I think everything has been covered.
Yes, sir.
And peroneus longus tendon, I think we are requiring much more ligaments and ACL. Normally we are not using it. Samantha sir?
Yes, that I told during the initial discussion. Whenever we are dealing with the multi-ligament injuries, then only we are taking the peroneus.
That is what question may be asked from students. They should remember.
Yes. So I have told them that whenever you are doing the multi-ligament injury repair, then only you take the peroneus longus. Otherwise, this choice-wise, if you choose the graft, first is the semity nowadays. Then you can either choose the quad tendon, then the bone tendon bone, and last one for the ACL is the peroneus longus. We very rarely choose the peroneus longus for the singular ACL injury.
And one question may be asked, that what is the ideal time to reconstruct after injury?
So I think senior most sir, Kalla sir.
We do interval after 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
So the answer for the PG student should be like that. Sir, I will not reconstruct the ACL in the angry knee. That means whenever knee is painful, patient cannot extend it fully. There is lot of hemarthrosis, and you see bone marrow edema in your MRI.
Yeah.
Please don't do this. Don't do the ACL reconstruction in the acute setting, because if you do that, the examiner will love to listen from your one term from your mouth is the arthrophybosis. Arthrophybosis is the dreadest complication of your ACL surgery. In acute knees, the patient will limp throughout his life in a flexed knee position. So this is very difficult to treat. So the ideal time of doing the ACL is never before 7 days. My timing is like exactly matching with whatever Kallar assistant is telling. Like I usually do in acute setting of not before 3 weeks time. So that by that time patient is comfortable, ice pack and whatever is given, patient can understand his quadricep exercise and whatever he can regain. Another one important trick I am telling to the juniors. If you find at the end of 3 weeks, he is not able to flex the knee to 90 degree, please slow down. Don't reconstruct the ACL. You will be having a horrendous problem during the physio. So if he cannot flex the knee to 90 degree, tell him to get back the motion back fast. Then only in a stiff knee, if you do ACL, the patient and surgeon both will repair throughout lifetime.
Another thing is, one more thing, sir.
Sir.
That this ACL is never done on MRI report, believe me.
No. ACL is never an MRI surgery.
MRI. So you should always ask the patient signs of instability and giving away. That is the point where you will take up the case. Otherwise, don't take up when he doesn't have instability.
Another one thing, probably Carla sir, I forgot to tell you, all my students, there is one terminology is there now, is the copers and non-copers. Copers means all ACL surgery, all ACL deficient knee doesn't need surgery. All ACL deficient knee doesn't need surgery. So these can be coped with their ACL deficient knee by properly balancing or regaining the strength of the quadriceps and the hamstring. So these are known as the copers with the ACL. And if the person who are not copers, that means with the yes complication. This is the I think the ICL you are referring to. Yes. So now the thing is that if the guy is even after developing the quadriceps and hamstring and he is still unstable and his sports demands that his pivoting action is there, they not do your ACL reconstruction. So all ACL deficient knee doesn't need ACL reconstruction. Am I true?
I think, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kakatkar, sir, your comments, sir. If you want to add some
one
points.
very important point which was raised by Samantha sir, that if the MRI shows you that there is a bone marrow edema, never operate these patients, because then you will end up with this arthrofibrosis, which is a very, very difficult combination. I think that is a very important message for all those who are in a hurry to do the ACL reconstruction.
So it opened as a challenge to the fellow.
Because many a times in the plain X-ray, you are not able to see these small microfractures, but the MRI picks up not only the marrow edema, but you can many a times pick up even these fractures on the tibial as well as the femoral side, and you have to definitely avoid doing surgery during that particular acute stage. Otherwise, you can land up with a difficult problem. So MRI may not give you the decision to do the surgery. The decision of doing surgery for the ACL is definitely based on the clinical examination, but MRI definitely tells you when not to do the surgery. Because if there is marrow edema or any fracture into any part of the bone, either tibia or femur, I think till the time this acute phase is over, you should not do the ACL.
Thank you, sir. I will request the all exam going students, whenever they will pass out and they will focus on arthroscopy career, remember to get these complications monogram of AAOS, American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. The title is Complication in Orthopedics, ACL Surgery. And every sort of complication, right from graft harvesting, tunnel positioning, and all possible complications, it has covered how this occurs and how to get out of it. Uday Kumar sir. Uday Kumar sir.
Sir, excellent talk, sir. Karla sir, we are really fortunate. Sir, my doubt is, I don't do arthroscopy. I'm general orthopedic surgeon. But thing is, whenever a case comes to me and they come with a partial full thickness tear. So what does it exactly means, partial full thickness tear? And do these people really require surgery, or on what basis criteria we shall advise them surgery? Because what happens if I refer this fellow to younger surgeon, is not waiting. Even for 7 days, they are not waiting. The conventional teaching, what we were taught, even when we were assistants also, if you do it before this reaction subsides, they will develop arthrofibrosis. But now I have asked many of the young surgeons why they are operating so early. But they say nothing. It was there, sir, but now it's the arthrofibrosis is not a matter to be discussed, not a complication at all, because we are mobilizing them early. So then what shall we advise these our patients to when to get operated? Because really confused. If I tell them, please wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the other fellow, the younger surgeon says, no need. You just admit tomorrow, will operate next day and discharge on the third day. So that is the express speed in which these people are going. So what is really benefit to the patient? I would like to know, sir. What
Sir,
is
from whom,
ideal
sir?
advice we can give to the patient?
Sir, to whom you want to answer? Ask the question, sir. Kalra, sir. Uday Kumar, sir.
Kalra, sir, Samantha, sir. Anyone, sir. Anyone.
Okay, sir. Kalra, sir, please.
Yes, sir. So this is a market-driven surgery. So there's a lot of money playing the role for indications and putting the patient on the table. That is the one. So, I mean, you understand what I want to say about that. Another, this ideal time is 3 weeks plus. I don't operate. I have seen few cases, 1 or 2 cases of arthrofibrosis. They are horrible. So why to fall a prey to all this when we can operate after 3 weeks? Nothing. We don't lose anything. This is after 3 weeks or nothing you lose. Rather you gain by patient settles, knees silent. And another thing is partial tear. Partial tear is difficult. So again, if he doesn't have a signs and symptoms of instability and the MRI is showing a partial tear, what we do is we do a diagnostic arthroscopy and proceed. Examination under anesthesia, arthroscopy. If we found a lax ACL or a torn ACL, or if we think it is a quite tight ACL, there's no pivot shift, then we let it. We don't do an ACL reconstruction. Generally, partial tears are doesn't need an ACL reconstruction. But there is one paper in clinical orthopedics which says how to do a surgery in partial, but they are only in a high-ended athletes where you have a pivot shift positive on examination under anesthesia. Those are the cases where you do ACL reconstruction. Not always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Uday Kumar, sir.
Sir.
And sir, if somebody says, somebody has said like this, I always say, my opinion is this.
Your voice is too low. Who is asking? I think his voice is too low.
आवाज नहीं आ रही?
आ रही सर.
अभी आ रही सर.
If the person says, the other fellow is saying like this, I always say, my opinion is this. I can't comment others' opinion. So what we feel.
Your voice is not audible, sir. Your voice is coming very low. Sir, Kanoja sir.
Sir, signal issue sir.
अभी तो ठीक है सर. अभी तो ठीक है सर.
उसको बोलने का मेरा opinion ये है. दूसरा क्या बोलता है? हम after 3 weeks. If somebody says after 1 week, but we can say my opinion is that. Others we can't say.
Can I make a comment on this partial ACL?
Sir, please.
See, I have seen people doing ACL reconstruction in a partial ACL injury when the patient has symptoms, when the patient still feels instability. And as Kalra said that you do a diagnostic scopy, you realize that the ACL is partially torn. Keeping that ACL part intact, by the side of that ACL, I have seen people doing reconstruction.
Yes, sir.
They put one graft by the side of the partially torn ACL and they do the reconstruction. I think Samantha sir will be able to throw some
Yes.
more light on this.
This is known as this technique is the specific name is there. This is known as this bundle specific reconstruction. That means suppose it is known as the bundle specific reconstruction. Suppose either your AM or the PL bundle, whatever is gone, you see that the one bundle is left is intact. You do the bundle specific, whatever bundle is lost, you just recreate that bundle. And then you probably need either you just do the 7mm graft, whatever graft you recreate, that will be done for your purpose. The main problem in the the partially torn ACL reports is that prints in the patient's brain. So never rely on the partial MRI report. The more you rely, whatever his symptom is and whatever you find clinically. So that is the most important part of doing whatever, how you deal with your partial. Most of the partial ACL tears are well managed with good physio and the rehabs with your quad and hamstring, your rehabs. And unless or otherwise he's a young guy, he is really symptomatic, if sports needs pivoting action, then only you go ahead with your arthroscopy and reconstruct your bundle specific, whatever you see. And if you see hardly some fibers are left, in that, then you take out the whole thing and go along with your classic ACL reconstruction. I think that is correct, Kakatkar sir.
I comment one thing.
Absolutely.
Shall I
Yes, sir. Sir, please.
Yes. Like cadavers, we did not find any bundle, as I have told you. So this concept is again a market driven, I tell you, in Indian scenarios.
No, I am not at all supporting parallel on the double bundle technique. The question is that when some bundle or some fiber is still left for you, because the question was specific on the partial ACL.
Agreed, so it is everything is there in literature. Double bundle is there, bundle reinforcement is there, everything is there. Nothing to contradict.
Whatever is left, you take that, but what is the advantage of it? Advantage is the proprioception. So if you leave that part of the ACL, this will give you the proprioception, whatever is left, because whenever the problem is the people are training, even if you do a correctly 100% done ACL, proper physio, but still you are losing the proprioception. The knee will be never same like the what is given by the God, only because we cannot recreate the proprioception. So that is this theory of keeping that some bundles of the ACL if it is left over after the injury. I think Allah sir, we are all agreed on that point.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Samantha sir.
Yes.
Where you will not wait for say 3 weeks. Conditions where you will go immediately ACL surgery.
So condition, I think that is the only one condition. Probably you will go with the ACL reconstruction when you are going with the PLC. When you are going with the ACL with the PLC. So because suppose in the PLC, if you want to repair the PLC, you have the window period of only 7 days. Because 7 to 10 days, because once it is beyond 10 days, you cannot repair the PLC. 10 days after PLC, it has to be reconstructed. So if you are tackling with the PLC, so obviously you have to do the ACL. If you don't do the ACL, you cannot address the PLC, your PLC will fail. So that is probably the one combination of rare combination where you can go ahead with the early, like before 7 days ACL reconstruction with the corner injuries. So otherwise you should not jump with the.
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Kakatkar, sir.
The other indication is if there is a bony avulsion.
Yes, sir. Avulsion fracture.
That is what you wanted probably.
Yes,
if
sir.
there is a bony avulsion, then you have to fix it early. You know?
That was my next question, sir. Actually, thank you, sir. Sir, ACL avulsion, sir. Sir, my question to you: in how many days you should go for ACL avulsion fixation?
Bony fixation.
Yes, sir.
Bony fixation, you should go as early as possible. Bony fixation, you can go because there is lot of hemarthrosis, and if you wait for 2-3 weeks time, they probably you will lose some part of the cancellous bone over there. It will mismatch. But if you go by 3-4 days time, you drain out the hematoma, you can fix, because this is not the ligament injury. This is like a fracture.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Because, sir, even if you will operate this case after 12 to 15 days, the crater is filled out, soft callus is formed in that crater, and whatever good amount of fiber wire you will use, you will not be able to tighten the ACL fully in that crater. Some laxity always remains, and patient is never satisfied.
Actually, type 1 you can leave.
Sir.
Type 1 boniovulsions,
Type 1.
the undisplaced type, you can leave that. Nothing,
Right.
all should not be fixed.
Yes.
Right, sir. Sir, last question to Jain sir. आप एग्जाम में क्या सवाल पूछेंगे सर?
अरे,
Which
I take
questions you
exam
would
of
like to
sports
ask?
medicine.
Doesn't matter.
I take
जब भी
FNB exam of sports medicine.
तो आप कौन से क्वेश्चंस आपके वो जो रामबान वाले कौन से क्वेश्चन है आप पूछेंगे अगर बंदा अच्छा स्कोर कर रहा है? तो आप कमेंट तो करेंगे नहीं, मुझे मालूम है। आप कौन से क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे सर? क्योंकि अभी जो बचे ना सर, अराउंड 27-28 स्टूडेंट्स है, दे आर जेन्युइन। बाकी 68 में से बाकी सब भाग गए। दे थिंक दैट दिस इज यूजलेस डिस्कशन। सो अभी इनके फायदे के लिए सर आप कौन सा क्वेश्चंस पूछेंगे?
नहीं, we start with the tests, pitfall and all that, and after that tendon strength और वो सब discuss हो गया.
Right.
Which tendon, why failed ACL. If the viva is going on very good, then we go up to failed ACL.
Right, sir. So, sir, I think today, without even reminding us, Kalra sir, thank you very much. Already, sir, 5 minutes हो गए, पेट्रोल खत्म हो गए.
नहीं सर, आज हमने बहुत हिम्मत करके लेक्चर लिया.
Kalra sir, last question from my side.
Sir.
Kalra sir.
Yes, sir.
So, all the femoral tunnels, you do it with the anteromedial portal, far-medial portal?
Yes, sir.
Or with routine?
Anteromedial portal, not far-medial.
Thank you very much, sir. I will request Gopa Kumar sir to have his concluding remarks today.
Gopal, एक last चीज बताता हूँ.
Yes, sir.
FNB exam, Pune. One of the student was given a ACL jig. He was not able to recognize it.
Sir.
He did not know what angle he's going to place it at.
Sir.
तो ये सब डिस्कशन FNB लेवल पे भी उतना ही इम्पोर्टेंट है जितना DNB लेवल पर है.
सर,
नहीं, सामंता सर बोले ना, वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के बारे में बताएंगे.
सर वो तो शोल्डर का.
अच्छा, वो शोल्डर का. हाँ, इसका भी
सर वो लड़का सफदरजंग के आया था, इतने सारा केस करके उसने लॉग बुक बनाया था, और उसमें ये नहीं मालूम कि ACL जिग कौन सी इंस्ट्रूमेंट पड़े उसमें.
वो तो OTORA देता होगा सर मांगने पर, ये ले.
तो ये तो थियोरेटिकल डिस्कशन बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है इस केस के अंदर.
सफदरजंग में सर वाश नहीं कराते स्पोर्ट्स इंजीनियरिंग में.
तो ऑब्जर्वर्स आउटस्टैंडिंग सर्जन सर. Outstanding surgeon,
sir. Only observation for 2-3 years. That's it.
तो सर वो FNB आपके यहाँ शिफ्ट करा देते, कम से कम कुछ तो सीखेंगे वो.
नहीं, हम लेते नहीं सर, हम बस अपना थोड़ा बहुत क्लिनिकल काम करते हैं और कुछ नहीं करते.
और ऐसा एक और हॉस्पिटल है बेबी मेमोरियल, उनके स्टूडेंट अमृता जाते हैं ACL सीखने के लिए. वो आया था एग्जाम देने, हमने तुमको कुछ भी नहीं आया, तो बोले सर 4 केस वहां देख करके आया, बस उतना ही किया.
पर मेरे जितने भी स्टूडेंट गए ना थीसिस करके, they are earning very good outside. This is after trauma, this is another bread and butter.
Yes, sir.
Arthroscopy is another bread. They are keeping the arthroscope in the car and moving here and there. Some of them have become very big now.
Yeah.
May I request Gopa Kumar sir to have his concluding remarks to conclude today's session.
One question, Gopal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was a very good discussion,
sir.
And sir has given a very beautiful talk regarding his experience in both in basic sciences as well as the technique of ACL reconstruction. After that, we had probably one of the longest discussion period, where most of the questions were answered. So I think that the students should concentrate more on the basics, because what what is being asked is if they are given a case, how to make a proper diagnosis, how to do the test, and what are the principles of ACL reconstruction. That is the most important thing which is asked in the exam. Thank you.
Shivanand wanted to ask something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
For the
You
students
wanted to ask
purpose,
one question.
sir, Carla sir, what are your tips and tricks to avoid blowout?
Air more anterior, make a tunnel. If not aim at 2 mm, aim at 3 mm of posterior bone. Little more.
Yes, sir. For 8 mm graft, use 7 mm femoral jig rather than doing eyeballing. I think I prefer that, sir.
Eyeballing is the word.
I will not cross 9 mm tunnel, and I will use 7 mm jig for femoral tunneling.
Yes.
Sir.
In initial cases, but believe me, if you are experienced enough, you can go as anatomical as you can. You
Sir,
don't get a blowout later on.
Sir.
Okay.
Samantha sir.
Yes, boliye.
Any tips and tricks?
Yeah, blowout is a complication for ACL surgery. So you have to be at least 200% sure that you are not blowing out on the backside. Okay.
Yes, sir.
For the beginners, I will tell that use the offset jig for your because if you use the offset jig of 7 mm, so you are automatically, unless you are using the 10 mm jig, that means your radius is 5. Yes. So automatically you are 2 mm off from the backside. So if you take 7 mm offset guide and if you take a 8 mm reamer, so automatically your radius is 4. So that means your 3 mm cortex is still behind your reaming side. Even if you take 9 mm or 4.5, that means 2.5 is still back on the backside of your reaming tunnel. So if you for the beginners, if you use the jig. And lastly, at the end of the story of ACL, believe me, taking my right hand on my left chest, I tell you, I have never done any ACL surgery still late without the jig for the ACL referencing.
Another thing is, sir, use right knees. Operate right knees initially. Yes, sir. Right knee operate karne ka initially.
That is a good tip, sir. Yes. For learning
only right knee.
Dexterity, sir.
Okay, let's call it a day.
Call it a
night.
Call it a night. Okay.
Bye bye, Gopkumar sir, Kakadkar sir.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir.